Hey guys, Kimmy Vapes here, and today I'll be reviewing the Ijoy Diamond VPC kit. Let's go ahead, have a vape, and see what comes with it. Okay, here is the Ijoy Diamond VPC kit. This was sent to me by Ijoy for the purpose of this review. Let's go ahead and open up the package. So inside the box, you're immediately going to see the Diamond Bay mod and the VPC Unipod system. Lifting that up underneath, you'll have another box. Inside this box, you're going to have an Ijoy lanyard, which you can attach to your Diamond Bay mod and wear it around your neck or wrist. You're also going to have the Ijoy Diamond Bay user manual, a pod cover for storing your VPC pod, and what is most unique here is this little stopper which will go inside the VPC base, which will allow you to convert this to fit other pods such as the Jewel and the Miley and others with similar contacts. Okay, so here's the Ijoy Diamond Bay. The measurements of this is going to be 34 millimeters by 60 millimeters by 27.5 millimeters. On this side, you have your fire button, 5 clicks to turn it on. And then you have your wattage up and wattage down button. And below that, you have your USB port for charging and upgrading. On this side, you have a black diamond-shaped cutout. Battery ventilation on the bottom. This is an internal battery. It's a 1400 mAh internal battery. There at the top is your spring-loaded 510. The Diamond Bay mod is capable of 45 watts, and it can fire resistance from 0.05 ohms all the way up to 3 ohms resistance. It has two modes, pod mode and power mode. In pod mode, it can fire 2.5 volts up to 3.8 volts. And in power mode, it can fire 5 watts to 45 watts. So here is the menu. Tiny but fairly easy to read. Now all of this down here is just black plastic. There's no screen down there. I feel like they could have utilized that area. I would have liked to see the screen a bit bigger and maybe put some information down here instead of making it so small. You have your wattage, your battery indicator, indicating that you're in wattage, and then you have what looks to be your puff counter, and then of course your resistance. So to go into the menu, 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3. And then you have power, pod, Jewel, Miley, Juno, and puff reset. So if we go back to power and push the fire button, it'll take you right back to this screen. If you select pod and push the fire button, it'll take you to the voltage screen where you can lower your voltage from 2.5 up to 3.8 volts. And it does not round robin. 3 clicks. You can also select Jewel, and it will automatically set the voltage at what the Jewel battery runs. Set it to the Miley, and then it will set it to the voltage that the Miley battery runs. So you get the idea. Basically in pod mode, you can adjust the voltage to what the pod's device runs the voltage at. So for example, the Jewel runs at 3.1 volts. Now you could also just leave it in regular pod mode and set it to 3.1 volts as well. The only difference is in pod mode you can change that voltage, so I would highly recommend that if you know the voltage of your pod system and it is the same as the Jewel or the Miley or the Juno, go ahead and select that pod just so as that you don't risk changing the voltage. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the VPC Unipod base and the VPC pod. So at first looks, this looks like a tank or a RDA, but actually it is a pod. So the total dimensions with the pod installed is 19 millimeters by 41 millimeters with a 2 ml liquid capacity. Let's remove the pod. The pod has a ceramic 1 ohm coil inside, and the recommended wattage for this pod is 10 to 15 watts. And you can run this in either pod mode or wattage mode. Just keep in mind that this is a 1 ohm coil, so you really don't want to go above 15 watts. So to fill the pod, you'll see there is a side fill port underneath this rubber gasket. You'll pop it up, and then there is your fill port. It has a very nice size fill port. No trouble at all filling this with glass dripper bottles or regular needle nose tip bottles. The e-liquid that I'm vaping in here is the Dinner Ladies Lemon Tart Salt Nick, which is a 30 milligram salt nick at a 70 VG 30 PG blend. So here you'll see on the bottom of the pod your contacts, which match up with the contacts in the Unipod vase. So should you want to, you can also use the pod adapter in here so as that you can utilize other pods such as the Jewel or the Miley. So if you're using the adapter to use your other pods, you want to make sure that you line up that adapter so that it's sitting the correct way for you to insert your pod. And now you're ready to use your VPC Unipod base with your other pods. So I don't have the Jewel or the Miley, but I do have a Bow, which is a similar size pod. I think it might be a little bit wider because I'm not able to get that stopper fully seated down into the barrel here of the base. But I do have it, and it is working. It's reading that the coil is a 1.6 ohm coil. I'm only firing it at 2.8 volts in pod mode. So just a little bit more information when using the VPC Unipod. Ijoy has some recommendations for VG and PG ratio. So if you're using a 50-50 VG-PG in the Unipod, you can run it at 3.3 volts. If you're running a 60-40 VG-PG, they recommend running it at 3.5 volts. And if you're running it at a 70-30 VG-PG, they recommend running the Unipod at 3.6 to 3.7 volts. So that is the Ijoy Diamond Bay and VPC Unipod kit. Let's go back up top, have a vape, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. All right, that was an up-close look at the Ijoy Diamond VPC kit. So what are my opinions? Well, let's get right into the pros. So the first pro, of course, is going to be the fit and finish. I find everything about the mod to be very sturdy. I've taken this mod, of course, out and about with me. I've had it hanging, so when it is hanging on a lanyard, it will bump against tables and stuff, and I have no scratches or dings on the paint finish. I also throw this in my purse, and I've not found any issues with it scratching up. Now, I will say that the screen, the diamonds on the sides of it are made of plastic, so there are a few little tiny scuffs on the side, which I would expect over time that you will find that those scuff up quite a bit. Also, the black there on these sides are a bit of a fingerprint magnet, but overall, I think that the quality of it is good. Next is going to be the color options. It comes in a variety of colors. You get 12 color options with this, so you have a lot of choices on color preference there. It is really simple to use, even though that this is a mod that is meant for power or pod mode. It is really simple and intuitive. The user interface is really only two options, power mode or pod, and then you can either select your pod type or use the generic pod setting where you can then adjust variable voltage, which I really like. Next is going to be the Unipod base. This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this, a Unipod base where you can actually use their adapter to fit other pods. I think that's a really awesome idea. Ijoy really cornered the market on that and found a way to appeal to us, those of us that have recently jumped on the pod train and have started using pod systems. So I like that they give us that adapter because that gives us a whole new option, and that is variable voltage pods. Another thing that is really important to mention is the 1400 milliamp hour battery. Now, while it only means the device is going to go up to 45 watts, so if you are using a sub-ohm tank or an RDA or an RTA, you're going to want to build higher resistance. This is not going to be a mod that you're going to want to be vaping a 0.1 or 0.2 ohm build on, simply because it won't last you very long. But when you're looking at the battery capacity from a pod standpoint, 1400 milliamp hours is a lot of battery capacity for a 6 ohm, 1 ohm, 1.5 ohm coil head. That's going to last you a really long time at 3.2, 3.5, 3.7 volts. You're going to get a really long time out of this. Now let's go into some cons, because I do have a couple cons about this device. So the first con I have is that you can't vape it while charging. While normally that's not a real big con for me for devices that can utilize RDAs, this is a pod mod, and anytime you're dealing with a pod system, my train of thought is that these are geared towards smokers who are looking to try vaping to quit smoking, and that means they need a device that they can rely on all throughout the day and anytime they get their nicotine craving. So if this is the only device they have and you can't vape on it while charging, that's going to leave them susceptible to possibly regressing and going and having a cigarette because their device is not charged up and they can't vape it while charging. So I just thought that important to note. I think manufacturers really do need to think about the smoker when they're developing small pod type devices like that, because in my opinion that's who these are really for, or should be for, though not that all of us can't enjoy them. The next con I have has to do with the rubber gasket fitting for the using an external pod. Now, while I don't have a Juul pod or a Miley pod to compare it to, I do have Bow pods and Infinix pods that I tried to put into that gasket. And what I found is that once I squeezed that pod down into the gasket wouldn't fit down into the barrel. And if I would put the gasket in the Unipod base and then try to put the pod in, it was really tight and I really couldn't get that pod to sit flush down in there. So as far as that gasket, I feel like there can be some improvement done on that gasket adapter or silicone rubber adapter that allows you to use other pods. And also that rubber can break down, tear, and I can see it breaking down and wearing out fairly quickly with use, just because when I tried to take that adapter out, it was really difficult, and I tried to get in there with a pair of tweezers and I actually ended up ripping out the side of the rubber gasket. So I am going to give it a con, just because I feel like they need to do a little more R&D on that gasket and maybe make the opening a little bit bigger, or maybe see what other materials might work with that. And also, I hope to see more adapters in the future. These are only, the adapter that they include only is going to fit pods that are the same size and shape as the Jewel, the Miley, the Juno, and that. I would like to see them come out with possibly another fitting, another base, and another adapter that can fit larger pods, or the wider 2 ml capacity pods that we've been seeing a lot of lately. I think that would be really awesome if Ijoy could release like a whole series of pod adapters. So that is pretty much all I have to say about the Ijoy Diamond VPC kit. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, click that subscribe button. And if you are already subscribed, don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you get notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks again for watching, you guys. Bye-bye.